You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, am I doing this well? Let's see. All right, close this. So in the famous saying, now for something completely different, maybe, perhaps, I'm going to talk about bridging the gap in bioinformatics and molecular biology in clinical practice. So this is spawned by my interest in collaborations, which I find is like fascinating. And what I'm trying to do is co-build a study group online. So obviously a lot of us learn from YouTube, as Dr. Vasi had mentioned earlier, and maybe, you know, worldwide, we can exchange knowledge and motivate each other as a study group to achieve these goals and keep our skills strong and be relevant to hospitals, academic environments. You could be a student anywhere in the world. Let's learn together and help each other. So as promised, this is a goal about using the translational. So you have the intersection of two different environments, perhaps the lab and or computers, or with actual, you know, molecular imaging, molecular equipment. How can we actually be relevant and practical in implementing things that help the clinic? So one of the things that we can do is keep up with the changes in bioinformatics for disease. We can look at how molecular biology research can be improved, and we can also apply these directly into the diagnostic and treatment plans of patients. So I thought about this, and just to make it easier, I have this, you know, we think about school 101, class 201, class and 301 and 401 and 501, I guess. So I'm just going to put it in that structure, starting from the basic bioinformatics. And these are kind of the quantitative skills. Now, I'm mentioning these not because I believe that everybody has to be proficient in all these assets, but I think that if somebody on your team has these assets, how do you utilize them well? And then for these people that have these assets already, which are, you know, writing efficient code, making pipelines, and having the statistics to produce reproducible data, that would be exciting. So how do you motivate them to do that? And how do they actually reach out and solve problems that we need in the clinics, and other people have different skills? So they also should, in my opinion, I was trying to like think about what that could be, right? They need to understand the algorithms and particularly keep up with all the crazy changes that are happening, including the complex installations. I know one of the things that is a killer is the amount of installations and difficulty getting other people's software to work. And those things frequently change. So starting with those, we talked about those kind of things, and I mentioned like 5 different things, and that's a basic science approach. And I started with that because, well, I have to start somewhere. And you can also consider other people to have other expertise. And one way to think about this, instead of, you know, if we're going to collaborate, we shouldn't think about like, oh, well, I have this skill and you don't have that, so this must be valuable. We have to think about what we offer. From those on the clinical side, you'll have lots of compensatory skills. Perhaps these are interpretive or lab skills that your basic science colleagues may lack. And again, I'm not being super critical that hopefully that people, you know, we all lack everything. This is such a massive field. We want to have, the goal is to have something that our employers want. And we'll discuss that a little bit. So moving on to the lab skills, these are the ones that I identified. And please add any more. Obviously, there's the bread and butter like PCR, NGS, and even things like microsatellite instability. But in this moving world, a lot of this is becoming automated. And that's the thing. There's a lot of new techniques, including NGS and all these other ones, having the familiarity of how they work, if you can. If you can't, at least what they're aimed to do and what are their pitfalls. And then the question would be on the reverse side, what do we actually use in the clinic? What do people actually use in hospitals? And I listed a couple of these. I've seen these, and I know that these actually make impact. NGS, flow cytometry, definitely used at the IHC, and medicinal chemistry, obviously, And genetics testing, right? Your predisposition to disease. That's why we have geneticists. These equipment can be very complex. And my approach to this is basically, I just keep on working on it continuously, right? How do the machines work? What is the intent? I talk to the vendors. The vendors are very helpful. They want you to understand their machine. That's sort of what they're required to do. They want to build a trust. And obviously, if they're using each one of these experiments or clinical work are very expensive, they want to use that efficiently and they want to sell you more. But you have to understand what all these machines that are coming out do. So I'm going to jump onto like interpretive skills. And behind all this, while we can do all the algorithms, just like we have to learn vocabulary, we have to learn the language of biology. And I've just selected a couple of these just to not make my slides overwhelmingly long, but DNA mutations, for example, play a large role, especially, for example, in colorectal cancer, when we're talking about MSI, the replication, where you have DNA repair slippage, and you have things like APC, P10, and PARP are all associated with tumor suppressor genes with also commonly associated DNA repair genes like TP53, BRCA, 1, 2. So these are like what I'm trying to strive for here is the explanation that you should try to have a feeling about these mechanisms, an understanding of the biology. And other signaling pathways, here's some more ones like MAPK and PI3K. Here in the US, we see lots of people dancing on commercials with new drugs that are coming out. And what do? Well, you have to understand these pathways, just as if you would understand a culture. And because these can influence cell survival, growth, and metastases. There are many, many updates. Every day there's an update. Our doctors are overwhelmed with the number of discoveries that are happening over the time. Another factor in that is that all these discoveries are made post their schoolwork. So how do they keep up with this? And these include targeted therapies. I could wish I even had you, I have a slide actually showing the demonstrable effect of the amazing power these TKIs have on changing people's lives in certain cancers that had no chances before. Now, these things are not for free, obviously. They are poisons, right? We're treating a poison to kill a poison. They're not for free. They actually have consequences, both positive and negative, but I've seen things where there's so much benefit from them, amazing benefit. In fact, there was a recent study where I think it was rectal cancer, where there was 100% over 20 people PFS, progression-free survival, and it just created so much excitement. There were people who were calling about this particular combination of drugs. People are now investigating, and this is going back to the more research side, the microenvironment and how it responds to drugs. So that's the response to immune evasion, stromal interactions, angiogenesis. Some things that are a little bit abstract, but we're beginning to explore this more. You can also look more deeply at things like websites. That would be almost like my 501 slides at the end, which I'll get to. And then people have been excited about immunotherapies, including checkpoint inhibitors and adoptive cell transfer, such as CAR-T. All of these have like a major impact on life. They're very expensive. Some of them, for example, could be like $1 million. So selecting the right patient for the right time is very, very important, and understanding biomarkers. So this is, again, on the interpretive side. So we went from the quantitative to laboratory to interpretive in this point. Team and communication skills. This is the fourth thing identified. I worked over these slides a little bit to try to think about what is the essence? What is it that people want? So I may be wrong, and I'm very open to suggestions. I would say that you want to have a multi-dimensional team. And in here, I wanted to just briefly mention what a tumor board is. So a tumor board is a meeting of different professionals that have different skills. It could be like an analogy, if you're coming from the business side, is that you have a board of advisors, or you have a cabinet for a government, or you have a multidisciplinary team from multiple different professions. But they have to come up with the best cancer care plan based on all these factors here to the right. So it's very complex. And how does that get pulled off? Having an understanding of the struggles that doctors and patients have is an important part of our mission. So in summary, I tried to think about what would make us valuable, right? And if from a pharmaceutical, if that's where we want to go, or be in a hospital, they want to have employees, I believe, and this is subject for debate, ones that can evaluate complex data and produce useful predictions for drug delivery. The second thing I would think is they should understand the struggles that doctors and patients work through on a daily basis, because this is sort of a logistics thing. If you don't understand all the logistics of getting care to the patient, this could be somebody who would be like a technical person who travels around that helps the sales team get into hospitals and actually apply it. And then similar to the number two is understanding like even more the, just like a step away from the laboratory, but the practical logistics of tumor boards, clinical informatics, and ranging things outside of oncology, like electronic health records. Or what about the other subspecialty practices? They have to link in. So what can you do next? Well, I think just considering this, and I hope this was motivating, I'm going to provide some slides, and there's all my contact information. I don't really use all those, Twitter and Discord or Slack, but happy to try. I do use my LinkedIn and email. And why would you want to do this as a study group? So maybe perhaps you're a non-US doctor interested in more translational practice, right? So you're not in the US and you're thinking about how to get in here. Sometimes the way that the non-US doctors come in is through a research pathway. And that's why I mentioned this. Sometimes, physicians that are practicing and they're thinking that they're going to do what they did in their country, it's a little harder for them. We have a structure here that, a system here for training doctors. It's a little harder for non-US doctors. So they have to come through a research pathway typically. Or maybe you're a laboratory person and you want to share your knowledge about instrumentation and technique, but you're interested in transferring yourself to a commercial position. Then you're going to have to be able to talk to other people from different labs. Or you're already there. I probably missed a bunch of different ones. Obviously, I didn't remember the epidemiologist here, but you have the ability to share your information and help keep up. Just like you would have different language learning, you need to practice your vocabulary and keep up with all the changing ways that people describe things. So here's my proposal. Let's form a study group, right? Prepare study materials. Now, you don't have to be like an expert didactic knowledge person. You could have organizational skills and still be important. And to lead these people into this, and we would probably think about this as a community of practice. That means that it should be leveled to all sorts of kinds of learners and differentiate if we need to in breakout groups, but just be open. That's how we would start. And then we would plan study sessions, encourage active participation. I find that when I question and ask questions, you probably notice that I like to ask questions. It makes me stronger. I might not actually have the best answers, but I like to ask questions. And we want to provide feedback and support. So we all are thinking about supporting each other, right? So why don't we leverage this to do that and promote a collaborative atmosphere? We help to help us keep on track. We might want to track progress. When the groups I lead, I have several groups that I chair, I use a scoreboard. So we just put on a scoreboard, like if you go to a sports game, they have like the numbers on there and everybody gets to see. It's very transparent where we're making progress and what needs to get done. And we have to choose a platform. This is where I need the group to help decide that. I think it shouldn't just be one person. They have to decide what works for them. So whatever kind of different types of platforms or familiarity, I might not even know, but some work better than others because they're more open. And then we have to clearly define our purpose. What are our goals? Why don't we, people won't join unless we know. So I like to lead a lot by a mission statement, like either we're doing our mission or we're not. And we have to find the right members. Some people come and go. It's just not their thing. And then we have to have deadlines and meet on a regular basis. Those are my kind of proposals. And I think sometimes people are a little shy to join like organizations such as I'm promoting. So I want to give other people, this is the 501, those who are not interested in joining, some other possibilities for them. So we're not being so like exclusive. So another way to know is to look at professional societies that support their goals, like other places in reading to grow your network. So this is beyond like our continuous conversation, but you can see what other people are doing and see if you can keep up with it. And these are the ones that I use. So reading, you may want to use the, since I'm into cancer, these are kind of my prime sources. So the ASCO Self-Step is a self-assessment program for people that are going to be fellows or registrars in oncology. And then MD Anderson Manual for Medical Oncology is a well-known text. And then from the pathology side, there's the Association of Molecular Pathology, which supports all the diagnostic tools. And then again, this is a translational. And then there's three groups I wanted to mention. One is the AACR, which is the American Cancer Research. So this is more like bench side being translated into practice. And it offers like opportunities here to network with people, but this is very higher level. And the goal is, I do go to this meeting and I try to participate. It is a very high level, usually people that are very focused on their craft. But I think one of the reasons we would have a study group is to be prepared to join things like this in the future. However, some of you may be already very advanced or interested in pursuing these things on your own. You can start. This is one place to go. And then I find pathology very particularly difficult because our advancements are going so fast. That I have to constantly keep up with the molecular pathology. So this is not just anatomical pathology, but things like IHC or all the ways they do this, or all the ways the equipment works. And then finally, there's ASCO. It's a society for so physicians don't really want to or think about the molecular mechanisms of actions as much as I would think they would. They actually use clinical trials a lot. So this is where the population medicine understanding really helps this. So there's a kind of a drive to them because they're not going to go in there and look for the bitty bites. They're going to rely on scientists and vendors to tell them what's going on. So they need to understand what is the outcomes from clinical trials to drive their work. And this includes things that are evidence-based clinical practice guidelines. This also advocates for patients. So I guess this would be more patient-facing kind of work. So I'm providing some ideas for food for thought. Where could these connections actually bind us together and form strong bonds between the two sides of the systems? Thank you for your attention, and please stay in touch. Looking forward to your ideas or your adjustments. Please feel free to contact me. I'm very interested in collaboration, even if it's worldwide. And again, I think the spirit is to build a group that grows.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Any questions? Everybody, any questions?
Hey, Dr. Wu, this is Kaustav. I just wanted to ask you, one thing. Thanks for your presentation. First of all, the other thing is, if we have to collaborate with you, what would be the, like kind of a structure of the program, how we would like, how you would guide us so that, there is a efficient way of, collaborating with you?
That's a great question. I think the thing is, what I found in the past is groups that organically form together that serve a mission or purpose. So the first way is to just reach out and say, well, I'm interested. I think this is something I'm interested in, and then we can collect names. And what you'll end up doing is we'll find people that would want to be champions, right? So there's going to be some drive to move forward in their careers, that they want to do this. So obviously, one way to do this is to simply watch YouTube videos or participate in your own labs. But I think learning to reach out would be good. And I've consciously decided not to be too opinionated about the presentation. So it would be, a way that the group of people that are interested would select that. The key thing is to drive forward and to try to get some results. So hopefully that made sense.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.